Spoiler alert! The movie begins with a vision of a husband finding his wife cheating on him with another man. He snaps and slaughters her. The year is 2054, and the pre-crime police can now apprehend criminals before they commit crimes by using individuals who can foresee a crime-related incident, specifically the act of murder. These gifted humans are known as precogs. The pre-crime unit has 3 of them, and they are kept lying in a pool of translucent substance. Pre-crime Chief John Anderton and his team are currently inspecting the new case from the precog's vision earlier. Anderton receives news that an investigator from the Justice Department is on his way to see them. The man introduces himself as Danny Whitwer. He is here to audit the unit because the country is about to vote on whether to expand the pre-crime program nationally. While Anderton is busy, one of his team members explains to Whitwer what they are doing and how the precogs work. He also mentions how the crime rate in the state has gone down since the pre-crime unit was established. After finding the future crime location, Anderton and his team head out and they manage to stop the man just in time. Anderton then scans his eyes to confirm his identity and places the man under arrest for the future murder of his wife. The man pleads not guilty as they take him away. Meanwhile, the precogs can be seen suffering in pain as they experience a precog deja vu moment. The agent explains that the more violent the crime, the more often the precogs will see it again. Later that evening, Anderton starts re-watching memories of his son and wife. His son was abducted many years ago and never found, and his wife left him soon after. The next morning, Whitwer visits the pre-crime unit again and expresses concerns about the unit arresting people who have never committed a crime. But the other agents disagree, citing predetermination as their justification. He is then given a tour of the precog's chamber. A technician explains that the translucent substance helps enhance the images the precogs produce. The more Whitwer learns about the precogs, the more he sees them as miraculous rather than purely scientific. He even suggests that the pre-crime unit might be operating more like a church than a law enforcement agency, with the precogs as prophets and their chamber as a temple. Anderton, however, treats them like reliable scientific instruments, not oracles. He puts blind faith in their ability to prevent crime and insists that the system is perfect. Whitwer responds by saying the system might be perfect, but the humans running it are not. He knows about Anderton's missing child and suspects that Anderton might act purely on emotion to stop a crime that hasn't been committed yet. After everyone leaves, the precog Agatha suddenly wakes up and draws Anderton's attention to the ceiling. When he looks up, he sees images of a woman being drowned. She releases Anderton just before the technician arrives to check on the situation. Intrigued by what Agatha has shown him, Anderton decides to investigate. He visits the Sentry, a person responsible for overseeing the locked-up pre-criminals and managing the precog's visions stored as video files. Anderton specifically asks about a drowning case. He sees the same crime in the archive, but notices that the vision Agatha showed him is missing. He specifically requests Agatha's missing version, and the Sentry takes him to the pre-criminal's record. Anderton cannot believe how many people are incarcerated as pre-criminals. He starts to question, are they all really guilty? As he inspects the pre-criminal drowning case, he begins to find inconsistencies. The suspect's identity was never confirmed by the previous team, and Agatha's vision has been wiped from the record. Anderton decides to copy the available evidence, but the Sentry warns him that digging up the past will only bring trouble. The next day, Anderton visits his boss, Lamar Burgess, to share what he's discovered, but Lamar appears unconcerned. Instead, he brings up Laura, Anderton's ex-wife, and reminds him that she would never have left if the pre-crime unit had been around to prevent their son's abduction. He reassures Anderton that the system is perfect. Meanwhile, Whitwer sneaks into Anderton's home and discovers that he's been using a lot of drugs. He also finds recordings of his missing son, and that make him conclude Anderton isn't driven by justice. He's using pre-crime as a way to cope with his loss. The next day, Anderton returns to pre-crime headquarters to investigate a new case. To his surprise, he finds out that the soon-to-be perpetrator is himself. He quickly slides the visions away before a team member turns around and casually tells him to go ahead and grab a piece of cake from downstairs. In his hand, the wooden ball shows the name, John Anderton. He analyzes the crime scene as fast as he can, gathering as much information as possible. He doesn't even recognize the man he's supposed to shoot in the future. Anderton is confused. He then notices the technician. He knows he can't hide the case anymore. Out of respect, the technician gives him a head start before sounding the alarm. As Anderton leaves, Whitwer steps into the elevator with him. He quietly tells Anderton that he knows about the drugs. Anderton believes Whitwer is setting him up to stop the pre-crime program from being approved nationwide. Hearing the alarm, Whitwer assumes the precogs have seen Anderton shooting him, but Anderton didn't. He leaves Whitwer in the elevator and takes a different exit. Anderton quickly contacts Lamar and tells him he's being framed. Lamar urges him to stay calm and come to his place to talk, but Anderton knows that the authorities will soon be looking for him there. Suddenly, his car begins to shut down as the system receives an alert that he's a wanted man. He smashes the windshield and escapes on foot. Meanwhile, Whitwer visits Lamar to ask why Anderton came to see him the day before, but Lamar refuses to answer. As Anderton walks through a crowded street, surveillance cameras begin scanning his eyes. In fact, these cameras are constantly scanning everyone's eyes. The pre-crime police quickly receive a notification about his location. Soon, pre-crime police arrive at the station and Anderton runs again. But with surveillance everywhere, he's quickly spotted. Anderton must fight for his freedom, not just from the system, but from his own team and from Whitwer's men. The chase leads to a car factory where he gets trapped inside a vehicle during the assembly process. He manages to escape using the same car, which hasn't yet been connected to the system, and this allows him to disappear without being detected. Anderton then visits a woman named Iris Heinemann. She is one of the pioneers of pre-crime. She explains that the three precogs don't always agree on what they see. Whenever this happens, the dissenting opinion, called the minority report, can be left out or even hidden. This challenges the entire idea of predestination. Iris tells Anderton that if he wants to prove his innocence, he must find the missing minority report. She also explains that while most people believe the precogs are gifted, to the precogs themselves, it's a curse. They are constantly haunted by terrifying visions, nightmares that never end. For the first time, Anderton begins to feel guilty. He had always been focused on stopping crimes before they happen and never truly thought about what the precogs endure. As he reflects, the guilt deepens. What if some of the people he arrested were actually innocent? Iris also reveals that her former partner, Lamar, knew about the minority reports too. Anderton starts to wonder, why had Lamar kept this from him? When Anderton asks how a minority report can be found if it's been erased, Iris whispers that it still exists inside the precog's mind who saw it. Before he leaves, Iris tells him that Agatha is the most gifted of the three precogs, so his best chance is to access and download her memory first. To avoid detection, Anderton visits a shady doctor for an illegal eye transplant. The procedure will allow him to bypass the retina scanners. Meanwhile, Whitwer visits Lara to ask if Anderton has contacted her. He tries to make Anderton look like the villain, blaming him for their son's disappearance. But Lara does not blame her ex-husband. She still loves him. She only left because he was using too many drugs to numb his pain. She then asks Whitwer to leave. The doctor tells Anderton to rest and wait for the timer to ring before removing the bandages. As he dozes off, Anderton is transported back into a nightmare, reliving the moment his son was abducted. The nightmare wakes him up before the alarm goes off. Police arrive at his location and begin scanning the building for body heat to determine how many people are inside. An officer announces that the spiders will soon enter to scan everyone's eyes. Anyone who doesn't comply will be severely punished. Hearing this, Anderton hides in a bathtub filled with ice water. He can't remove the bandages yet. Doing so too early could leave him permanently blind. Suddenly, the scanner loses a heat signature. Suspicious, the police decide to check the room. One spider, just about to leave the bathroom, detects a bubble pop. The rest begin swarming the tub. They send electric shock into the water, forcing Anderton to come out and open his eyes. With only seconds left on the timer, he peels off the bandages. The spider scans his eyes and confirms that it's not him. With that confirmation, the police who's about to open the door leave the room. He's safe, for now. With surveillance cameras no longer tracking him, Anderton uses a device to distort his face and sneaks into the pre-crime building. He uses his old eyes to gain access to restricted areas, and soon enough, he reaches the temple. The only person currently there is the technician. Anderton promises not to hurt him as long as he helps download Agatha's memory. Meanwhile, Witwer sees Agatha's face on Anderton's future murder case. He realizes that Anderton will come for Agatha and rushes to the temple. Surrounded and unable to find the minority report, Anderton decides to kidnap Agatha. He pulls a lever and flushes them both out of the chamber to escape. One of them suggests they hunt Anderton down immediately, but Witwer stops him. He explains that Agatha is already included in Anderton's future. Their best chance of stopping him is to locate the building where the future crime will happen. Later, Anderton visits a hacker friend and asks for help in accessing Agatha's vision of him committing a crime. As they revisit the future crime, Agatha's vision suddenly stops right after Anderton shoots the supposed victim. There is no minority report, no alternate outcome. Then the vision of the drowning case resurfaces. She keeps asking Anderton, "Can you see?" But he still doesn't know what she means. Slowly, it starts to make sense. Agatha wants him to see who the real criminal is in Anne Lively's drowning case. The hacker records everything, but Agatha abruptly ends her vision to warn them the police are on their way. Thanks to Agatha's ability to foresee the future, they easily escape. As they move through the city, Anderton notices the man's image on the billboard and sees the building from the vision. He enters the room, but no one is there. While searching, he discovers a pile of photos of children, and one of them is his son. Now he understands why there was no minority report in his case. The man he saw in the vision, Crow, is the one who kidnapped his son. Soon, Crow enters the room. Anderton immediately attacks him, demanding a confession. As this is happening, Agatha urges Anderton not to kill him. She tells him it's not too late to choose another path. Anderton finally reconsiders. He does not believe in predestined crime anymore. But then Crow says something that changes everything. If Anderton doesn't kill him, Crow's family won't get paid. The whole murder was staged. Crow is actually innocent, and he was promised money for his family if he takes the blame. Desperate, Crow grabs Anderton's gun and pulls the trigger for a cop-assisted suicide. Agatha screams in pain as the vision comes to pass. Later, Witwer arrives at the crime scene. He's suspicious. Why would a kidnapper leave so many photos just lying around? He puts the pieces together and realizes it was all a setup. Witwer decides to meet with Lamar again and shows him that the Anne Lively's case was recorded during the raid on the hackers' club. He then compares Agatha's version to the one used for the arrest and concluded that the crime was staged. Someone used the system to get away with murder. Suddenly, a shot rings out. Smoke rises from Lamar's pistol. Lamar reveals, without Agatha, the other two precogs can't foresee this murder. Meanwhile, Lara sees Anderton and Agatha approaching her house. She quickly calls Lamar, begging him to help Anderton in any way possible. Lamar calmly tells her that he'll be there shortly. Anderton tells Lara he's being framed, but he doesn't know by whom. Suddenly, it all clicks. Everything is connected to Anne Lively's case. He rushes to Agatha, but before he can say anything, Agatha reveals that Anne Lively is her mother. The visions of her mother drowning will never fade. Something about that moment still demands justice. She warns Anderton that he will have to run again, but it's too late. The police arrive. They finally arrest Anderton and take Agatha back to the temple. Later, Lamar invites Lara to his office. He wants to make sure she doesn't feel too upset about her ex-husband's arrest. She thanks him for his support, but then brings up Anne Lively. She says Anderton keeps mentioning her name. Lamar slips up. He accidentally says Anne Lively was drowned a long time ago. Lara immediately becomes suspicious. She never told him that Anne Lively was drowned. The secretary then informs Lamar that the press conference will begin soon. Having to leave, he tells Lara they'll continue this conversation later. Once alone, Lara sees Anderton's evidence box. Taking his gun and his old eye, she infiltrates the pre-crime building and orders the sentry to release Anderton. Meanwhile, the technician monitoring Agatha sees a vivid vision of Anne Lively's case on the ceiling. Jad, Anderton's loyal colleague, starts recording everything. Without hesitation, he sends the live footage to the audience at Lamar's press conference. As the room watches the truth unfold, Lamar realizes he's been caught, exposed in front of everyone. He flees the place before his identity gets revealed. Anderton calls to warn him there's no escaping now. Lamar tries to justify Anne Lively's murder, saying Agatha is needed for pre-crime to succeed. Everything he has done was for the greater good. Hearing these excuses, Anderton is filled with rage. Lamar used his missing son to manipulate him and set him up. He betrayed everyone, sacrificing truth, justice, and innocent lives for power. Suddenly, a red wooden ball rolls. The precogs have seen that Lamar is going to kill Anderton shortly. Lamar finally meets Anderton face to face. He now faces a dilemma. Shoot Anderton and go to prison for the rest of his life, or don't shoot him and prove that the precogs were wrong. If the vision doesn't come true, the entire pre-crime program will fall apart. But deep down, Lamar knows there's always been another choice. He asks Anderton for forgiveness and pulls the trigger, shooting himself. In the aftermath of Lamar's suicide, the state decides to shut down the pre-crime program. All pre-criminals are pardoned and released. John Anderton reconciles with Lara, who is now pregnant. Together, they begin to heal. As for the precogs, they are finally freed from their nightmare. The three of them are moved to a secret, peaceful location, far away from the chaos and pain of the world they once helped control.